Ever find yourself staring at your computer screen and like wondering how it all actually works?
It really is wild when you stop and think about it.
I mean, how do all those clicks and commands, how do they translate into, everything?
Yeah,
It's amazing. Today, we're going deep into the system that makes it all happen.
right.
The often unsung hero, the operating system, or OS, for those in the know.
Yeah, OS, exactly. It is pretty fascinating, especially those early days before operating systems were a thing.
Oh, really?
Early computer programmers had to manage, well, everything manually.
Whoa.
Can you imagine the chaos?
Oh, man, that's giving me flashbacks to trying to organize my sock drawer.
It's a lot. So walk me through this. What exactly is an operating system?
Okay.
I get that it's not as simple as just saying Windows or Android.
Right.
But what's the bigger picture here?
Well, you can think of the operating system as the ultimate multitasker,
Okay.
the invisible conductor of an orchestra, if you will.
Okay, I like that. It manages all your computer's resources, the processor, the memory, storage,
Hmm.
making sure that everything works in harmony, even with, millions of processes happening at once.
Okay, so it's preventing my computer from having a meltdown every time I try to check my email and stream music at the same time.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's the reason why you can, effortlessly switch between browsing the web, editing photos, even video chatting with your grandma, all without your computer, like breaking a sweat.
Wow, I never even thought about it like that. It really is like the maestro behind the digital curtain. So I have to ask, are we talking about like one type of OS or are there different, species in this digital jungle?
Oh, it's a diverse ecosystem out there. Just like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't use a fish to climb a tree, you need the right tools for the job. Different tasks require different types of operating systems.
Okay. I'm ready for this digital safari.
All right, let's go.
What kind of operating systems are out there?
Well, let's start with the heavy lifters. Multi-computer operating systems.
Mm.
These are the behemoths, the ones you find in those massive data centers and cloud computing,
Okay.
where tons of CPUs are working together like seamlessly as a team.
Teamwork makes the dream work, even in the digital world. What else you got?
Then there are distributed systems. Think like global networks, even your home Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay.
These operating systems connect multiple computers, sometimes each with their own operating system, and allow them to communicate and share resources.
It's all about connection, isn't it? So much happening behind the scenes just so I can binge watch my favorite shows.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And speaking of behind the scenes, we can't forget about the stealthy embedded OS. These are the tiny but mighty systems that are powering your smart devices, appliances. Heck, even your car probably has one.
Wait, my smart refrigerator has a tiny OS making sure my grocery list syncs properly?
It's true.
That's like a whole other world in there.
Precisely. And then there are real-time operating systems, or RTOS. These are used in situations where timing is critical. Manufacturing, robotics, even medical equipment. Imagine a robot arm on an assembly line. It needs an RTOS to react in milliseconds to avoid disaster.
Okay, that's seriously impressive. So we've got these different types of OS out in the wild, each with its specialty. But what about the core components that make up these systems? What's going on under the hood?
That's where things get really interesting. At the heart of it all is the kernel, the core of the OS.
The kernel, isn't that like kind of like the inner sanctum, the control center of the whole operation?
You got it. The kernel is responsible for managing the system's most essential resources, like a conductor, making sure each instrument plays its part. It manages memory allocation, ensures smooth communication between hardware and software, and it protects the system from rogue programs.
So it's the brain, the bodyguard, and the stage manager all rolled into one.
Exactly. It's what makes sure that everything runs smoothly, even when you have, multiple programs all vying for attention. Think about it. You open a web browser, you start streaming a video, and then you switch to editing a document. The kernel is juggling all those processes, allocating memory and processing power, so everything feels seamless to you.
I'm starting to feel a newfound respect for my computer. It's handling a lot more than I give it credit for.
It really is. And to manage all those tasks, the OS relies on a few key players. One of those is the process.
A process, like a set of instructions.
You got it. When you click on a program, the OS creates a process for it. This process gets its own little slice of memory, its own processing power, and the OS makes sure that it plays nicely with all the other processes running at the same time.
So the OS is like the ultimate babysitter, making sure all the programs are playing fair and sharing their toys.
That's a great way to put it. And sometimes, just like kids, you know that programs need a little extra attention. That's where interrupts come in.
Interrupts, like a digital tap on the shoulder.
Exactly. Imagine you're working on your computer, and suddenly your cat decides to walk across your keyboard.
Oh no.
That triggers an interrupt, right? A signal that tells the OS, like, hey, something just happened, you need to deal with this.
So it's how the OS responds to those unexpected events, like a keystroke, a mouse click, or even a system error.
Precisely. The OS is constantly bombarded with these interrupts, and it has to prioritize them. Figure out what needs immediate attention and what can wait its turn. It's all about keeping things running smoothly, even when chaos erupts.
So the OS is like this master conductor,
Yeah.
juggling these interrupts, processes, and who knows what else.
Yeah, and speaking of juggling, one of the things that the OS is constantly managing is memory allocation.
Right, because if every program had like free reign with the computer's memory, things would get messy fast.
Exactly. So the OS prevents programs from stepping on each other's toes by giving each process its own dedicated space in memory. Think of it like assigning each program its own little apartment to work in.
So it's preventing those dreaded crashes where everything freezes and you lose all your work.
You got it. And this is where it gets really clever. Some operating systems use something called virtual memory.
Okay, virtual memory. Break that down for me.
All right, so imagine you have a desk, right? But it's got limited space. You've got a ton of paperwork.
Oh, tell me about it.
Virtual memory is like having a filing cabinet nearby.
Okay.
You can store some of those papers in the cabinet and then just pull them out when you actually need them.
So it's a way of like freeing up space on your actual desk, or in this case, the computer's RAM.
Exactly. It's like creating the illusion that you have more memory than you actually do.
Ooh, sneaky.
Right. This way, even if you have a whole bunch of programs running, the OS can keep things humming along smoothly.
The things you learn. Now, while we're on the topic of organization, what about file systems? All those neatly labeled folders on my computer is that the OS flexing its organizational muscles.
Absolutely. You can thank your OS's file system for keeping your digital life from becoming a chaotic black hole of data.
So instead of just dumping all my files into one giant digital junk drawer, the OS creates like a system for organizing and retrieving them.
Precisely. It creates a structured hierarchy of directories, or folders as you call them, so you can actually find things. Imagine trying to find one specific book in a library without the Dewey Decimal System.
Oh, the chaos. Don't even get me started on trying to find anything in a physical library. But going back to the digital world for a second, the OS also plays, a crucial role in security, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In today's world, the OS is your first line of defense against malware, hackers, all sorts of digital nasties.
It's like the digital bouncer at the club, checking IDs and making sure only the right programs and users get access.
Exactly. The OS controls access to your data, making sure that only authorized users and programs can get their hands on your precious files. It's constantly working behind the scenes to keep your system safe from harm.
It's like having a personal bodyguard for your computer. But all this talk of security and processes and kernels, it makes you forget that, we interact with the OS through what's called the user interface, or UI, right?
Ah, yes. The UI, the face of the OS. It's how we humans, make sense of this complex digital world.
So whether we're talking about the graphical interface with its colorful icons and like intuitive windows, or the, more code-heavy command line interface used by programmers, it's all about how we communicate with the OS.
Precisely. The UI is the bridge between our, human brains and the complex inner workings of the OS.
Yeah.
And it's come a long way. If you showed someone using a modern computer today what the UI looked like decades ago, they probably wouldn't even recognize it.
Oh, I know. I've seen those old pictures. It's all like, ooh, black screens and flashing green text. Makes you appreciate how far we've come.
It really does. And speaking of technological evolution,
Yeah.
let's zoom out for a moment and talk about some of the big players in the world of operating systems.
You mean like the operating system celebrities? I'm ready for my backstage pass.
Well, let's start with a true icon, Linux.
Okay.
Known for its flexibility and open source nature, Linux is a favorite among developers. It powers a huge chunk of the internet's servers.
Ah, Linux. The rebel of the operating system world, always pushing boundaries. What else you got?
Well, on the other end of the spectrum, we have the reigning monarch of personal computers, Microsoft Windows.
Right.
Love it or hate it, Windows has been a dominant force in the tech world for decades.
It's true. Almost everyone I know has used Windows at some point in their lives. It's practically a household name.
Exactly. And let's not forget about Apple's Mac OS, known for its sleek design and user-friendly interface. It's a major player in the world of personal computing. especially among creative professionals.
So we've got Linux, the open source champion, Windows, the long reigning king, and Mac OS, the design-focused innovator. Quite the lineup.
They each have their strengths and weaknesses, of course, but they've all played a major role in shaping the digital landscape as we know it.
It's amazing to think that behind every website we visit, every app we use, every photo we edit, there's an operating system working tirelessly behind the scenes.
It really is. And as we rely more and more on technology in our daily lives, understanding the role of the operating system becomes increasingly important.
Yeah, it really is kind of mind-blowing when you stop and think about it. This invisible force that's orchestrating the entire digital world.
It really is a real testament to the ingenuity of all those computer scientists out there who've, dedicated themselves to building these complex systems.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground today, different types of operating systems, their inner workings, the big players in the game. What's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that, we often take the complexity of operating systems for granted. Every time you open a file, browse the internet, or heck, even just move your mouse, it's the OS working tirelessly behind the scenes to make it all happen.
It's like the silent partner in our digital lives. Always there, always working, but, rarely acknowledged.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And just like any good partner, the more you understand how it works, the better equipped you are to, make the most of it.
So true. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a newfound appreciation for my computer's operating system.
Me too. It's a
Like,
powerful tool that, like you said, we often overlook, but it truly plays a crucial role in shaping our digital experiences.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into operating systems.
Always fun chatting tech with you.
Until next time, folks, keep exploring. There's a whole lot more to discover in the digital world.